Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I'm George. We're all George. So happy Sunday. It's Super Bowl day for those of us in the U.S., but I'm not here to talk about the Super Bowl or football. I'm here to talk about Bitcoin and why a very bullish Bitcoin trend is still intact and we are still moving in the right direction. Let's talk about that. And also, I did find another gem, so to speak, well, one that has been around for a while, another project that has promise in the AI space, so to speak, and in the privacy space. So let's talk about that project as well. So welcome, guys. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. Bitcoin came up a little bit at 22,000, holding 22, no, a little bit below, but we have started recovering up from that 21.5 low from last week. Now let's see if we can, starting with this week, let's see if we can trend upwards and continue back to our journey to 24.2 and beyond. Now this week, we do have one huge event, or I should say piece of economic data that's coming out. And that is on Tuesday, CPI. We're going to get another CPI reading. Absolutely huge. Once again, we had, I believe, six or four, I forget the exact number, of consecutive down readings of inflation. And it's anticipated we're going to get another one on Tuesday. That overall CPI inflation will go from 6.5 down to 6.2. All right, and core inflation will drop into the fives. We could see something even better. We could go all the way down to 6% or even below, right? Nevertheless, this is going to be huge because it's showing inflation in the U.S. is still coming down slowly but surely, and that is what this guy wants to see, Powell. And the more inflation goes down, the harder it is for him to ignore that inflation is going down because he's still been talking, very, very hawkishly, even though he's now open to, hey, maybe we don't need to hit 5% for the Fed fund rate. Maybe we could slow it down. Maybe we don't need to keep raising rates, right? He's open to that, but he's still very hawkish, saying, yeah, we got more to go, right? But every single inflation reading is showing that, hey, maybe he does not need to be so hawkish. He needs to kind of cool it down, so to speak, right? So he doesn't overreach and really destroy the U.S. economy. So we have that. And then we have several other things going on this week. Retail sales, that'll be important. A lot of people will be looking at that, right? PPI inflation, which is on Thursday. Okay, another inflation reading. But then you have jobless claims and housing. Jobless claims normally don't have an effect on the market, but last week was so good it scared the bejesus out of people. Or no, the week before that, I'm sorry. Because we had like a crazy jobless claim. No, I'm thinking about the inverse, not jobless claims. Jobless claims is how many people are filing for unemployment. No, in terms of how many people found a job, that was 2 weeks ago, and that was like through the roof. It was crazy high, right? But this will relate. Anyways, so this is going to be a big week. Big week starting with Tuesday. Now, something else that's going on that has nothing to do with crypto is this phenomenon of a lot of UFOs now being spotted and being shot down. Just yesterday, I talked about how the U.S. shot down one in Alaska. Trudeau says he shot down one over northern Canada. And these UFOs are no like ordinary drones. If you thought, okay, there's just like a personal drone being shot, no. They're the size of a car, and they're flying at 40,000 feet in the air. So that's above a commercial airliner. Commercial airliner is about 30,000, 35,000. These things are flying above at 40,000 feet in the air. I mean, so no one knows where they're coming from. Could they still be like Chinese spy drones? Maybe, but they're not saying it now. With the spy balloon, they knew it was from China. But with these, they have, they don't really have an origin. So they're studying the parts that has fallen to the ground, but what's going on? That's like two in 2 days. Is this a distraction or is this real legit? You tell me. I don't know. Are we really being invaded by aliens right now or surveilled by aliens, or is just a ploy for the governments to maybe put more money into military, right? A way to maybe increase the budget and increase spending. I don't know. It's just really weird, all coming at once, right? Anyways, that's what's going on. As for Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin is still doing its thing, still being bullish, still in a trend, hasn't broken out. So before people start freaking out, I mean, here's a good example. 2019, 2023. We're comparing all these, mostly comparing to 2019 because we were very similar. Back then, 2018, 2019, right? We were down already, but 2019 we had a massive dip going from 6,000 to 3,000. We stood there for months upon months, and people were giving up, thinking that, hey, we're going to go lower. We didn't. We recovered up, and then we recovered some more, right? But we did have a little breather before going higher. In 2023, same thing. We all thought that, hey, maybe we found that bottom around 17,000, 18,000, right? Boom. We had another drop because of FTX down to 15. We hovered there for quite some time. Now we have broken above, right? And now we're hovering a little bit. And people are wondering, oh, does this mean that it's a giant bull trap and we're going to go lower? No. Well, I mean, we have seen this before. There's always going to be people that are doubting. But if we use history, right, then we know there's no doubt we are recovery, right? It's just a matter of when, not if, we continue to head higher. But if we're following history, if following previous cycles, we're following all the times we have fallen to a bottom and started recovering, it's very, very, very similar. There's so many of these. So here's one. Here's another one. This is the 3-day EMA Ribbon, which just basically measures all these moving averages and puts it in a ribbon pattern, right? And whenever we go from red to green, well, that traditionally is very bullish indeed. You could see back in here, it's hard to see, but on the left side, when Bitcoin fell down from 64 down to 28,000, and that you could see the ribbons turn red. And then when it turned green, well, that's when we went from 28,000 to 69,000, right? And we have been in red for quite some time. And Bitcoin has been unable to break above, first of all, the ribbons. And second of all, we have not seen ribbons turn green since the beginning of 2022. And guess what? We did both. Bitcoin not only broke above the ribbons, but also now the ribbons have turned green, which is very bullish. So we have that too. Then we also have this, which I use in the thumbnail. This also compares to 2019. I'm trying to get rid of the camera here, okay? This is Rainbow RSI, but basically it's showing a reversal, showing oversold levels. And you could see not just 2019, but 2015 and 2012, right? Whenever you find that bottom and then you start flipping upwards, generally speaking, on a grander scale like this is actually on a 3-week time frame, good things happen. Good things happen. And look at the bottom right-hand corner. We have just flipped into green. So, bullish trend is still here, right? We haven't broken out of it. And this is why we need to stay strong and stay focused on the future, right? And here's something else. If you still don't believe all that mumbo jumbo stuff, believe this. This is measuring the liquid supply, meaning the supply of Bitcoin that has been removed from exchanges, have been untouched, and just sitting in a cold storage wallet, a mobile wallet, some kind of wallet that's off the exchanges and haven't been moved for a long time. Okay, and some of this could be lost Bitcoins too. We are now at 78%. 78%. A level unseen since 2014. Almost going back to the very beginnings of Bitcoin. Right? Since 2014, yes, we had the liquid supply kind of, just start going down. Because you have so many people coming into this space, every bull run that we have brings new retail investors, and those people, of course, are trading a whole lot of Bitcoin. So a lot of the liquid supply starts going down because of that. But now we have climbed all the way back to pre-2014 level. And if more and more people continue to hodl and take Bitcoin out of exchanges, well, that supply will keep going up. And imagine we get to the 80s and 90s. Imagine we get to the point where like over 90% is illiquid and everyone is just fighting over that last 10%. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But this shows we're getting there. We're starting that trek already. And this is why Bitcoin ultimately will go much higher than where it is now, because it's just simple supply versus demand. Supply keeps dropping, demand keeps going up. It's really that simple. That simple indeed. All right, so that's Bitcoin, but also here's some interesting Bitcoin news, or just crypto news in general. Brazil is going to allow residents to pay their taxes in crypto. Now, I know people in crypto space hate paying taxes, thinks that, hey, I don't need to pay taxes, you know, screw taxes. But for people that want to pay taxes and be sure that they're not going to be sought after by the IRS or any other tax agency in the future, right? You know what? Paying directly in crypto is pretty big. We have seen some states offer this, right? But now we're starting to see other countries offer it. So this, for me, I think why this is good is because a lot of people always think that, you know, with crypto or with Bitcoin, whatever you have, you always need a fiat off-ramp, right? You need to convert it to fiat in order for the gains to be useful. But no, in the future, you got to think about it. In the future, you're going to have more and more, I don't know, real estate deals and merchant purchases and tax payments in crypto, where you're just spending directly using your sats or using your ETH or using your, I don't know, Sol or using your ADA, right? So that you don't have to worry about that off-ramp. And I think, you know, we're getting there, but it's very early. But in the future, right, you could just be paying everything with sats or everything in ADA or something like that. You don't have to worry about off-ramping fiat because, well, that is the ultimate goal, to get away from all these fiat currencies created by the governments and central banks around the world, right? That's the whole point of Bitcoin and crypto. All right, so that's also pretty positive, lastly, you know what? I know that I just posted a video last night about AI, kind of got you guys caught up a little bit in case you missed the whole thing about ChatGPT and Google and some of the project that has pumped already, like Singularity, Fetch, even something like the Graph. But I did find another project that I've heard of before, didn't do a really deep dive, but I'm going to do like somewhat of an overview for you guys because it is promising. It's a L1. It's also in privacy and it's in AI space too. So this could be a project, could be a gem as the market continues upwards. And who are they? Well, Oasis Network. Oasis Network, they're still relatively small. 400 million market cap. I say relative because compared to some of the other guys, they're double or triple, quadruple Oasis. So Oasis Network is in all these things that I've just mentioned. Now, as for... they're in a lot of exchanges already. So Binance, KuCoin, Coinbase, you know, Bybit, all these guys, Binance.us. So that really helps them. Also looking at like the circulating supply is 57% out of total. So these are good things. Exchange listings and also how much of the circulating supply out of the max supply to token economics is looking good. Okay, so just get that out of the way. But what is Oasis? Well, they are an L1 network that provides privacy for Web 3.0. They are EVM and Solidity compatible, which means that basically you could think about Oasis, well, they are their own L1, but you could also think of them as like a L2 on top of all other EVM compatible chains, because basically for any dApp makers that's EVM compatible can utilize Oasis Network and gain privacy, okay, and hide transactions. And you may think, well, why do you need to do that? Well, I'll get to that in a little bit. But in a nutshell, that's what Oasis is. They are a privacy network for Web 3.0, specifically EVM-compatible dApps. Okay, so why do you need privacy? Well, they have a few dApps already, not the biggest, okay, but they're starting there. Why do you need privacy? Is it because you want to hide all your transactions? Yes. For legitimate reasons or illegitimate reasons? Well, the government would argue all privacy things has to be illegitimate, right? But that's not the case. Because if you are, let's say, in the healthcare industry or financial industry, you can't have everything ride on top of a public ledger where you can actually see. Like if you're Microsoft or you're Google, you may not want to let people know the vendors you work with or how much people are paying for services or your contracts. You can't put that publicly out there. And same thing if you're a healthcare provider, if you're a large hospital, you don't want patient data, you don't want names and social security numbers and everything else to be riding on top of a public, ledger, public, ledger. So that is why privacy does have its use case, right? And plus, just being a general retail investor, you don't want to let people track your wallet and see how much you spend and how much you're sending, right? Maybe you want some of that privacy too. That's the whole point of this. But there are a lot of industries right now that can't use a public ledger. It's just impossible for them because you can't have all this sensitive data reside publicly for people to search, right? Now, there are other privacy coins out there that kind of lock things up and put it onto the private or the public chain, I should say. So they have like a private and public chain. Oasis kind of just solves that altogether. They use ZK technology, ZK roll-up technology, where basically they'll hide everything and then just put the essential stuff onto their L1. But essentially, this is the reason why privacy coins or privacy chains or privacy projects, they have their use case because you can't have everything residing open publicly. Here's another good example. Equifax, okay, which measures people's credit ratings and, of course, looks at a whole bunch of data from users, right? They are looking at doing something on Oasis because, again, you can't have all that information public, right? There's a lot of use cases for privacy and hiding some of the results and hiding transactions because you don't want people to know about it, right? Same thing. They're partnering up with Meta. This is interesting. This is actually for basically surveys, to actually do fair surveys that no one can see, anonymous surveys, so you can't identify who it's from or who it is, right? And they're partnering up with Meta for that reason too. So I mean, these are just a few examples, right? A few examples. Now the team basically came out of Berkeley. The founder was a professor of computer science at Berkeley. So, and they're based in the U.S. So, pretty good from that standpoint. And also, they're into AI. That's the thing. Really, what Oasis is about is interoperability because they're EVM compatible, right? On-chain privacy, I mentioned all those things, and AI and big data, okay? So they want to be in that space too. So they're kind of all three in one. So obviously I mentioned this because AI is such a big deal right now, right? But hey, AI, big data, machine learning, they can take advantage of what Oasis has too. And, who knows? Who knows what might spur up in the future. But that is definitely one of their three branches of what they want to get into. So that's kind of what Oasis in a nutshell. People have asked me about Oasis before. Wasn't that familiar, but now after learning about them, I think they're a pretty decent project. Also, in case you're wondering, right, it's not just them that's kind of trying to get into the ZK space and privacy space. For example, we know that Polygon is using ZK technology, right? They're trying to push their ZK-EVM, right? ZK is just zero knowledge proofs, and there's several ways to look at it. But basically, they take information and process it so that it basically gives back yes or no without actually knowing the data. So basically, it hides the data, right? So you could use it for many things like scaling, but you could also use it for privacy, which is what Oasis is using it for. But you have Polygon that's using it for scaling. And then you have like someone like Cardano. I don't think anyone talks about this anymore, But Charles says IOHK is trying to come out with a new blockchain, a new sidechain for Cardano, and a new token, right, utilizing ZK technology. So it's called Midnight. I haven't heard this. This was talked about back in November, but even Cardano, recognizes, yeah, there's a use case for privacy, right? And they are working on their side chain with a new token using ZK rollups. So basically, there's many projects that's in the space that's trying to utilize the technology. Now, with all that said, this all sounds great, but there is one thing that may be holding this back, right? And holding projects back that are in the privacy space. And that's regulators, okay? Regulators do not like the concept where they can't track transactions. They love to track everything on chain, which is why they all want to come out with their CBDCs. They want to come out with their own digital dollar, digital ruble, digital yen, digital whatever, because if everything is digital and everything is trackable, well, then they get a ton more insight into what people are doing with their money. Rather than dollars, you can't really track it, right, if it's physical. But because of that, some countries are already cracking down. So you could see Dubai just issued a privacy coin ban. This was just 2 days ago. So there are countries that are very not in tune with this, right? They do not want things to be hidden, which is why you have guys like Monero or Zcash and others, Horizon. A lot of them have been delisted from exchanges because countries have basically pressured exchanges to delist, right? So that's the one thing that's holding, I would say, the whole privacy sector back, because governments hate it. They hate it. Now, if you want to use it, great. But this one thing to keep in mind, because a lot of these projects are still on exchanges. They're still relatively small, not targeted. But if they get bigger, will they be? Quite possibly. So just throwing that out there. But overall, I think Oasis sounds like a pretty good project. And I mentioned decent team, good tokenomics. They're in AI, and they're EVM compatible. These are all great things. All right. Outside of that, Bitcoin is still 22,000, and overall market cap is 1.03, which is good. We're coming up a little bit. I don't know why this keeps resetting. All right, let's do some Q&A before the pre-show commercials start. Mander Jewelry and Teddy Vinny and Jimmy Doss. Welcome. Three guys manning Rumble. All right, let me scroll up here. Let's see if I missed anything. Spanish John, I don't think anything a baby Dogecoin. Sounds silly, and it probably is. Let's see. The Dro, Monero, step it up. Monero has had a rocky history. At one point, someone figured out how to break Monero's security and kind of see the transactions, and then they patched that. But Monero's been doing a lot of forks over the years, trying to make their chain better. But they started getting delisted from a lot of exchanges around the world because people know that Monero is like kind of the de facto chain to use for privacy, and I think they're #1 coin in the dark web. That's what I hear. I can't verify that. Let's see. The government wants to see everything and wants their share of the pie. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. What time is 100,000 Bitcoin? I have no idea, Miles. I think everyone would like to know that. I would guess probably 2025. Probably 2025. I heard this year all crypto companies pulled their commercials from the Super Bowl. So they don't want that bad omen like last year. They don't want that bad press. But I don't know who originally had a Super Bowl commercial lined up, but they all pulled it. It would be funny if everyone pulled it and then Binance just has like 5 commercials just to prove to everyone that we're not scared and we have a shitload of money to spend. That would happen, but that would be funny, but that'll never happen. CZ will never do that. I don't think Binance ever had any commercials ever, but that would be funny if it did. Privacy coins act exactly the same way cash is utilized to pay rent or pay the gardener. Why are they so after privacy coins? Because they don't want it to act the same as cash, right? But here's the thing. Ryan is also a little bit different. When you pay the gardener, you pay whoever, right? They know most of that will be deposited in some way, or they're going to use that to pay some kind of bills that's trackable. Eventually, it's trackable, right? But with privacy coins, with everything hidden, they just have no clue. They have no clue if you're just storing it, you're buying something, you're spending it, right? And plus, they want to be able to tax you too. So that's the thing. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. A lot of reasons why they will not like it. I want to know what this is all about. I want to know why there's so many alien sightings all of a sudden, or UFO sightings, and why we just keep shooting them down. Maybe we should not shoot them down. Maybe we should like try to, secure one in some way, capture one rather than shoot it down. Ninja Glock. Have you seen where Coinbase lawyer is challenging SEC and Kraken settlement? Well, I didn't see their lawyer say that. I saw Brian Armstrong saying that, and I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see it. There's a reason why SEC targeted Kraken. Okay, now some people will say, well, Kraken was doing illegal things. No, it's nonsense. They targeted Kraken because they're the small guy. Kraken doesn't have the means, the resources to fight the SEC, so they caved in. Had they went after, Coinbase, that would have been multi-year, lawsuit. It would be just like the Ripple one, where it could last for years upon years. And the SEC doesn't want that. They wanted a quick judgment, so now they could go to all the other exchanges and say, hey, look, they caved, so you better cave, right? So that's why I truly hope that Coinbase and even Binance.us, that they fight this tooth and nail. I know Binance.us certainly has the money to. I don't know about Coinbase. They should. They're in a much better position than Kraken. They should just both fight it. The way Gary explains things makes no sense. In the interview, he's like, oh, yeah, all they had to do is register. And Jesse's like, okay, if it was that simple, then I would have registered, right? It's not that simple. And Gary keeps he's convoluting everything in terms of what Celsius and what others did versus native staking of projects. I mean, there's a lot of things in crypto that you can't define using existing laws and regulations. Gary thinks so somehow, yet he's supposed to be an expert in crypto. I don't quite know. 3-piece, appreciate it. What about tax implications of using exchange banned in the U.S.? You mean just the foreign exchange? Well, you could try to hide it. I mean, obviously, they're not going to report to the IRS, right? So obviously, you could try to hide that. But just remember, one day, you may want to cash out that crypto. And if you do, then the IRS will look at it and say, hey, where does this money come from, right? So just keep that in mind. I think a lot of people plan on hiding forever, and maybe that's works out. But remember, when they go after you, when you're much richer, the penalties and consequences are much larger too. If you're a small fish, they don't care. But if you become a big fish because you've been buying and holding crypto for 10 years and now you are a multimillionaire or a billionaire, then they really come after you, right? So just keep that in mind. Gang Command, which one comes first, lawsuit ends or Andrew Tate gets out? You know what's funny? I don't see anyone talk about Tate anymore. Literally he had the greatest momentum ever in social media history, and now it has completely died. Like, I don't hear anyone talk about him anymore. And I think that may be the purpose. The Romanian government did it on purpose, just to try to, like, shut down his momentum. And I think it worked. Gary Gensler is just a bully boy. I mean, pretty much. Pretty much. Gene is asking, why did they report when buying crypto? When you sell, you report. Yeah, you don't have to report when you buy crypto. You report when you sell it. Any kind of transactions, according to the IRS, is like a taxable thing, taxable event. So if you sell it, you trade it, you convert it, that's considered a taxable event. But if you buy, you don't have to report. UFOs replace Tate coverage. That's pretty much true. Are you not into seller network? No, I'm not. Zach, do you follow the housing market at all? When, if, do you think the housing market would crash again? Everyone was saying supposed to happen now, but I'm not seeing it. That's the thing, Zach. A lot of people speculating. There's a couple reasons that I could see why it should, but also a lot of reasons why it won't. You know, it's part of a much bigger conversation, Zach. But right now, many people are locked into their sub 3% mortgage rates, right? So they're not going to leave no matter what. They will stay very, very hard because they know we probably won't see those rates ever again, possibly. So they're going to try their hardest not to sell their houses or not to foreclose if they can choose not to, right? So you're talking about supply is still very limited because of that. Now, demand hasn't really changed. Demand, people have been looking for houses for a long time, and a lot of people didn't want to overpay for a new house, right? So it's still there. But because interest rates are now double what it used to be, you know, it's slowing down demand for sure. You're seeing like prices come down a little bit, but overall, there's still a lot of people that needed homes. You know, they've been waiting, so it's kind of offsetting that a little bit. That's why you're not seeing home prices drop a lot, because overall supply is still low, and demand, even though it came down a little bit, it's still higher than supply. You know, now some people argue that the real estate market could crash because a lot of people will start foreclosing because for 2 years people didn't have to pay their rent. They didn't have to pay their mortgage because the government allowed that to happen, right? And now they do. Well, now a lot of these people saved up for 12 to 24 months, right? They save that up and they have that money to spend. And a lot of them are now hitting the job market once again, which is why the jobs report has been spectacular. We gained like 500,000 new jobs like last week or the week ago. I mean, it's crazy how much new jobs are being added now. So all these things added together, can we still see the market go down? Yes, it could trend down slightly, but are we going to go to pre-2020 levels or 2019 levels for real estate? It's hard to see that. I don't see it. There's too much money was printed, too much money was given out, too much forgiveness was given out. So, you know, I think we're not going to see those prices again. We're going to see elevated prices basically forever. That's kind of how I see it. Now, of course, can we have a huge recession and pull everything down? Sure, but even that, I think, is out the window. I mean, the U.S. economy is so strong. This is what Powell deals with. You know, he's afraid of destroying the economy, and he could. He has the power to do so. But right now, all economic numbers are looking fantastic. Fantastic. Not just good, fantastic. So, you know, that's the short of it. Do you like Al's beef? I can't say I tried Al's beef before, Miles. I will never forgive the government. Well, this is why you're in Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is created for people who distrust the government. I mean, it was created exactly for that reason, right? And more people, once they understand what the governments have been doing around the world, and how they're fiscally irresponsible and how they keep overspending and they keep printing and overspending and printing and overspending and printing. When you have something that is not set in supply, there's no ceiling for it, and it keeps being printed and the supply keeps increasing at a faster rate without a limit, well, then, you know, that is something that you should not hold on to, right? All right, guys, let's call it a day. 22,000 Bitcoin. That's awesome. We're trending up right before Super Bowl, right? We're still in a very bullish pattern. So many patterns, right? We have not stopped recovery. We took a little breather, maybe, but we're still in recovery mode. And today I also covered a new project called Oasis, which is in that L1 privacy AI play, in case you guys are looking for new projects to research. All right, guys, enjoy your day. If you want to check out car reviews because you're not a football guy, head over to Drivers Only. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow. I'll have a weekly recap video for you guys tonight. And tomorrow, same time, 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Can't talk. 8:30 Central Standard Time tomorrow. All right, have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.